let's talk a little bit about sex trafficking, okay? Now, I once said to a relative of mine, a very highly educated relative of mine, that sex trafficking is condoned on high from the highest levels of authority. And she scoffed at me. She said, "No, rich people don't traffic, don't do sex trafficking, right?" Because on the news, it's always just, poor ghetto people doing it, right? This was before Jeffrey Epstein. Now, not to get sidetracked, but Jeffrey Epstein, I first heard the name Jeffrey Epstein at least 15 years ago. You just heard of him last year, but I heard of him 15 years ago. His name has been well known for a very long time for anyone who fell into the conspiracy rabbit hole. Okay? Now, let's get back to sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is, I think it's the second largest moneymaker as far as illegal business now. Drugs being the first, and now sex trafficking, the second largest moneymaker for organized crime. Let's just think about that, how widespread it is. Except smuggling drugs and smuggling humans are two very different things. Okay? Especially when you talk about smuggling in women from other countries, Ukraine, Scandinavian countries, Caribbean countries, South American countries, the Africans being smuggled into Europe, the Asians, Chinese being smuggled, sex trafficked in large amounts. You really think that something like that could happen without the authorities being involved? This is not like drug trafficking where you can have one person that drives down to Mexico, get some drugs, and smuggle it back, and nobody knows except the person they bought it from. Theoretically. We're talking about sex trafficking. You're bringing humans into a foreign country. You have to get them some kind of documentation, some kind of paperwork, and if you don't, you have to keep them captive somewhere. And then all the clients that come in and out, all those clients. And nobody's the wiser, huh? We got a surveillance system that listens to our every word, our every character that we type into the internet. Every single person in this country and in this planet has a file on them containing their computer trail, everything they've ever said and done on the internet. We got satellites flying out to Mars and Jupiter and the end of the galaxy. But somehow we can't find out where a brothel is operating. We can't find out where a pedophile ring is operating. Isn't that interesting? We can't find out where a tunnel is being dug from Mexico to the United States to bring in drugs and human trafficking victims. And you're so blind to what the reality of this world is that you say, "Oh, no, just like my educated relative with a PhD. Oh, no. Rich people don't do sex trafficking. On the contrary, it's only rich people who do sex trafficking. Who else would have the money and infrastructure to bring in a bunch of women from another country and either get them documentation or keep them captive somewhere and bring all these clients in and out and in and out, launder all the money, and nobody's the wiser?" You talk about pedophile rings. We think it's important to smash atoms, to subatomic particles, to send out probes to the end of Pluto, but we don't think it's important to catch pedophile rings, huh? The Great Plague. This is the Great Plague. You're looking at it. Sex trafficking from the highest levels of government, from the highest levels of finance, from the highest levels of organized crime, which all three of those are synonymous. That's who's doing the sex trafficking. It's not some Mexican who kidnapped your sister and took her to Utah. Okay? That's what they want you to believe on the news. But when you talk about getting the most from a financial perspective out of these people, that's done through organized crime. And you'd have to be stupid to really think that the government doesn't know who organized crime is, where they're operating, how they're operating. You'd have to be stupid to believe that. But most educated people are stupid. They've been trained very, very well. And they know that their social credit score is going to go down if they start sounding like a conspiracy theorist. Don't they? They might be ostracized from their little academia fellowship group because they're cowards. That's what civilization makes of us. It turns us into cowards because we're too weak to do anything about it. So the easiest thing to do is to pretend it's not happening. Now just look at the title of this YouTube. I was sex trafficked for years. Brothels are hidden in plain sight. In plain sight. And yet no one in our incredible intelligence agencies who monitor our every word to see if we're thinking impure thoughts can find them, huh? Look at all the thumbs down. That's a very high thumb down ratio for something like this. Reminds me of all the people who come on Soft White Underbelly, mostly men, and they go into the comment section when there's a prostitute, and some of these prostitutes try to put a brave face on it, or they try to make it seem like they love what they're doing. In a lot of cases because they're still doing it and they're trying to drum up business on Soft White Underbelly. And then these guys go in the comment section, see, she loves it. She's happy to do that. No child abuse there. No incredible child trauma that led her to that path. No, she just wanted to do this. She's happy doing it. No one's happy to be sex trafficked. And that's where these thumbs down are coming from. The people who go to the brothels. I'm crying. I've been trafficked since I was 5 by a Christian relative. Oh, those wonderful Christians. You gave me the strength to go through with my court case. He put so much fear into me. Fear. The fear of the people who are being trafficked and the fear of the general public to acknowledge what's going on. Animals take better care of their young than many so-called humans. Absolutely. Especially mammals, of which we are a member. All the more reason to investigate the associates of Jeffrey Epstein. What about Sandusky? What about good old Sandusky and that pedophile ring that he was running out of Penn State? Had a whole nonprofit organization behind him dealing with what? Abused children, disadvantaged kids, the vulnerable kids that he could manipulate and molest, and all the money that was behind it, and all those authority figures. But only Sandusky went down, the lone gunman, just like Jeffrey Epstein, another lone gunman. Must be a conspiracy theory. Her family didn't protect her, love her, or give her structure. The 400 people who disliked this video and posted "she's lying" comments probably used these services. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I bet they're mostly men that like to justify the enslavement of women and prostituting them. Any other good comments here? You think men in power don't know they use these services and do not care? Absolutely. You know, there's some element of the average suburban Joe who goes and uses prostitutes, but these powerful men who are flying around all over the world, they got all this money to blow. They got their wife at home and their kids. They're the ones who use the prostitutes the most. That's why these brothels don't get noticed. That's why pedophile rings don't get broken up. It's the people in power who are doing it. It's just simple logic. Look at the logistics that goes into running a brothel or a pedophile ring. How could you have that many people involved and no one notices? Especially when you talk about pedophile rings where they make up, what, like 70, 80% of the traffic on the dark web? Oh, it's the dark web. No one in government can figure out who's what. Yeah, I bet you believe that too. I bet you believe that because it's easy to believe it. The path of least resistance. All right, almost done. Foster care adoption often is human trafficking. So is foster care. Well, I'm glad I scrolled down to see that one. Because ain't that the truth? Our whole foster care system is set up to deliver the most damaged kids into the hands of pedophiles for a nice hefty price. Remember, second most profitable crime, human trafficking, next to drugs. And maybe arms dealing. I don't know if it's second or third, but boy, it's up there. We're going to talk more about this foster care system. Trust and believe. We're going to talk about that. And the Child Protective Services are kidnappers. You better believe it. You would be amazed the amount of human trafficking that goes on behind foster care institutions. All you need to look at is the trafficking that went on in Haiti. Again, it's the most vulnerable, the poorest. They have no recourse. Children ripped from their families and sold to foreign families for thousands and thousands of dollars. The relief organizations had no interest in fixing the people's country. Of course they didn't. When have any of these relief organizations fixed anything? They go out there and they give out handouts and then they set up shop. They just wanted to make use of it as an excuse to abduct and sell children. All right, one more comment. I hope all these massage parlors get busted and go out of business and all the corrupted officials connected go to prison. Again, common sense that something like human trafficking, like a brothel, like a pedophile ring cannot go unnoticed by the surveillance state. It's not possible. It's not possible. These are protected from on high. And every now and then they bust one of them. The poor prostitutes go to prison. Maybe the madam gets a little prison sentence and they're right back out there in another location doing the same thing. So there you have it, folks. Brothels are hidden in plain sight, and so are pedophile rings. It's the Great Plague. It's the Great Plague that you don't know about. Child abuse that's killing this planet because it's swept under the rug. and it's protected and it's promoted by those in power.